How about 2 delicious homemade treats for your sweethearts? This one is mini chocolate chip oatmeal shortbread cookies. And this is a cherry cheesecake dump cake or cobbler. Yum. Well, hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, your hostess, and y'all, Valentine's weekend is here. Have you got your desserts ready? Because I'm fixing to give you 2 recipes. One I promised you earlier in the season, and this one is something I'm making up for room at the inn. So I thought I would share it with you too, because having a good dessert is always a plus with a meal, especially on special occasions. And I decided today for the room in the inn, I'm going to make a cherry cream cheese dump cake, and I'm going to use it from scratch. I've actually made my own cake mix right here, and all I'm going to do with this is I'm going to dump it on top. You can do that without buying a cake mix if you know how to do it, and I will link the recipe up here in the description because I did this recipe earlier this year too, or last year. We're going to use not one can, but 2 cans of cherry pie filling. We're going to use some butter, and this is Amish butter that has been canned, and I'm going to measure it out of this. And then I have cream cheese. I'm going to use a full block, 8-ounce block of cream cheese, but mine was frozen. So what I did is I cut it up and I got it in a cup so it would defrost faster. 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm using raw cane sugar, and 1 egg. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to grease a 9x13 pan. Now I use butter on mine, but you can use whatever you have on hand. So we're going to make this recipe. I'm looking forward to cooking it with you. I've got to preheat my oven. Make sure I don't have anything stuck in there. I usually have a skillet in there. And we're going to get this recipe started. So this is going to be a rather unusual and long video, so y'all stick around to the very end, and I will try to remember to timestamp it, so if you just want one recipe, you can go to that timestamp. So I've already opened my cans for convenience, and I'm just going to dump them into this pan. The reason I'm using 2 cans is because it's a special occasion. If you don't have 2 cans, it's all right. You can still do it with 1 can. But I thought, let's make it extra good for these guys that don't get home cooking very often. And for y'all that are not familiar with Room in the Inn, it is a ministry for homeless men in our area. It is held by several churches. We host it each month, and it's usually over a 1-day event. But with that Snowmageddon, we had a church in our local community that actually opened their doors up for over a week, I think. So we're going to just spread that on the bottom of our 9x13, and we've got our cherries ready to be covered with the next layer. All right, into our mixer. I'm going to use my same spatula. It's got the cherry gunk on it. And we're going to get all that cream cheese goodness in here. And I'm going to use a spoon to get this off that spatula because I want it all in there. That little bit of cherry in there is just going to give it color. Not going to hurt it a bit. I'm also going to add in 1 egg that is from our hens. 1/2 a cup of sugar, and 10 tablespoons of our butter. And I've got another spoon here to get it out. And you can melt your butter if you want to. This is actually soft because it was in my canning room. And so I prefer this when I'm baking. 3, that's 4 tablespoons. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'll make sure I get all that butter out of there and get that into our pan. We're going to get You can also add a teaspoon of vanilla to this if you feel like it needs it, but you don't have to. So we're just going to get this kind of spread over the top of the cherries. All right, let me get my hands cleaned up and we'll be right back. All right, to make this easier, I'm going to use a 1/3 cup measuring cup, but you can use a 1/4 cup or 1/8 of a cup just to kind of spread this evenly over the top of your dump cake here. And you don't have to stir this or do anything. This is going to bake itself into a dump cake. And I love dump cakes. It's so easy to make and clean up. Got a cherry. Go ahead and get that dumped in there. I'm going to grab another spatula and I'm just going to smooth over the top. To make sure that I've got it kind of even. And we're going to put this into a preheated oven for 40 to 50 minutes. And I'm going to check it. I'm going to actually put it on a cookie sheet and put it in my oven in case it bubbles over. I don't want to go into it too far, but that's what it looks like, and it is so delicious, y'all. I'm going to put this back in here, and hopefully they won't notice that I've messed with it too much. But I do want to get some of that flour. If there's any excess flour, I do want to get it kind of off of there. And I'm going to let that cool, and then I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap and put it in my refrigerator until I'm ready to serve it. But you can serve it warm if you're serving it to your family. So there's my chocolate chips. And this is a shortbread cookie, so it's going to be a very stiff dough. And if you find it's too stiff, you can add maybe a tablespoon of cold water at a time to loosen up a little bit. What I did the last batch is I rolled it into logs, put it in the refrigerator, and then sliced it, but it didn't work out too well. So we're going to just try making them by hand this time around. For the second Valentine's recipe, this one comes from Betty Crocker, The Big Book of Cookies. And it is a newer book. I'll try to remember to link it in the description box below. We picked this up at a thrift store, I do believe. The recipe is found on page 283. That is what the cookies should look like. So I'm going to read this off real quick, and then we're going to get into making the cookies. I did add a personal note that to bake for 15 to 20 minutes and shape by hand, and use a little bit of water on your hands to shape. It makes it go so much better. So prep time is 1 hour and 5 minutes, start to finish 1 hour and 20 minutes. It makes approximately 4.5 dozen cookies. I say closer to between 3 and 4 dozen cookies. You need 1 cup of soft butter, 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 cup of quick cooking oats. I use whole oats, they work just as well, and 1 12-ounce bag of miniature chocolate chips, and I use the semi-sweet chocolate chips. You want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees, and according to the recipe, you only cook them for 11 to 13 minutes. Allow them to cool on the cookie sheet before you put them onto a cooling rack. And these are so good. But I found with my electric oven, it takes 15 to 20 minutes to actually bake these cookies. Let's get started. All right, into my mixer, I'm going to put my 1 cup of soft butter. One cup of powdered sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm going to go ahead and throw in my 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. We're going to get this mixed until it's light and fluffy. Light and fluffy. We're going to add in our flour a little at a time. We're going to add in our oats, and then we're going to final it out with the mini chips. All right, the dough is going to be crumbly, and you're going to have to get in here with your hands and really mix it together. And you may need to add just a little bit of water to kind of bring it, to combine it. Just a little bit. You don't want a lot. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons in and work it in and see what I need. Just to bring it together. Now the recipe doesn't call for this, but I'm just suggesting it because with all those chocolate chips in here, it is really a dry dough. Even though it's got butter in it. So it's starting to come together. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to get it into our oven, 325 degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. The recipe actually called for less time, but I have an electric oven. And we're going to put this on a cookie sheet about 2 inches apart. So about a tablespoon per cookie. And just roll it in your hands. My hands are a little damp, so that helps. And they're going to be small cookies, but they're going to be so delicious, and you really don't need a bigger cookie. So I'm going to get these done off camera, then we're going to get them into the oven. So on my cookie sheet, I was able to get 15 cookies. And they're not going to spread a lot, but you don't want them touching each other. And then when they come out of the oven, I'm going to put them on a cooling rack and allow them to cool down to room temperature before I box them up. And this will make probably 3 to 4 dozen cookies, depending on how big you make your cookie balls. Okay, I'm using these cute little Love cupcake liners. I found this beautiful box in my stash. It says Love Each Moment on the top of it. And I lined the bottom of it with a piece of parchment. I've got 2 cookies per cupcake liner. We're going to fill this up. Two layers of cookies. So that's 24 cookies in this little box here. Love each moment. And there are the cookies all packed in there. I'm going to cover this with another piece of parchment to protect the box. But isn't that a lovely way to package up a gift for someone for Valentine's Day? I just thought I'd share that with you. 2 homemade sweet treats for your Valentines. Your sweetheart. Don't they look amazing? Yum, yum. And the second treat, of course, is the cherry cobbler to finish off your Valentine's meal. So delicious. Shortbread cookie. Can y'all believe this? Oh my gosh. And it's so good. It's got oatmeal in it. It's got the right amount of powdered sugar, butter, those little mini semi-sweet chocolate chips, and oatmeal. Simple ingredients, right? Look at that chocolate. Oh my goodness. We're going to do a taste test. Mmm. Your sweetheart will thank you for these cookies and that cherry cheesecake cobbler. Delish. Be blessed and a blessing, everyone. Here's some content I think you might like. Thank you for visiting our homestead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hype, and share to help our small channel grow. See you next time for more simple living, frugal tips, and farmyard fun.